away we go, and Hamilton gets a decent start, and he's already ahead of Max Verstappen. Hamilton leads into the first corner. Is it going to be a first World Championship for Verstappen? Is it going to be an 8th World Championship for Lewis Hamilton? Where can Verstappen try and get past Hamilton?
Max Verstappen's greatest moments. Max Verstappen made his Formula 1 debut when he was only 17. He began his career with Scuderia Toro Rosso before being promoted to Red Bull Racing in his second season. Since then, Max Verstappen has accumulated 35 victories, 20 pole positions and 2 world titles. Verstappen's first steps into the F1. Verstappen replaced Jan-Erik Verg during the first practice session of the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix to prepare for a full-time position at Toro Rosso for the 2015 season. Verstappen was the youngest person in Formula 1 history at 17 years and 3 days old. Verstappen joined the Red Bull Junior team in August 2014 after testing a Formula Renault 3.5 vehicle. He also contemplated a position in Mercedes' driver development program. He won the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix on his Red Bull Racing debut at 18, becoming the youngest ever driver and the first Dutch driver to do it. Craziness for the world title in Abu Dhabi. Max Verstappen won his first Formula 1 World Championship by defeating Lewis Hamilton in the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix contentious season finale. This season had been hailed as one of the best in the sport's history, and the title battle came down to one of the most insane final laps. Hamilton was on his way to a record-breaking 7th world title when Williams Racing driver Nicholas Latifi crashed into the barriers with 4 laps to go, bringing out the safety car. The race was restarted on the final lap, with Verstappen allowed to start practically side by side with Hamilton, despite the Brit establishing a big lead. On new tyres, the Dutchman had the speed to overtake his competitor and win one of the most thrilling F1 races in history. Verstappen was emotional and slightly stunned after winning the final race. "It's insane," he said. "I'm speechless. I'm very happy for them and all of these guys. I adore working with them. Finally, I got some luck today. My team knows I adore them and I plan to continue working with them for the next 10 or 15 years. Incredible overtake on Mercedes driver Nico Rosberg in Brazil 2016. Brazil was a perfect race for a 19-year-old driver to show his skills due to the wet race conditions. While rain often proves to be a challenge for even the most skilled drivers, a young Max Verstappen made it look as easy as possible, even managing an incredible overtake on Mercedes driver Nico Rosberg. After a bad strategy from the team, Max found himself in position 16, causing Verstappen to have one of the best recovery drives to date, with him fighting his way back to 3rd. Despite him only finishing 3rd, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff was more forthright. Verstappen pulled off a move on 69 laps in Austria 2019. Austria 2019 was one of the most competitive races in terms of who would win we have seen in the last few years. Austria is Red Bull's home race, so there will always be pressure for Verstappen to do well as the stands become a big blur of orange in support of him. This race was highly anticipated as Charles Leclerc and Verstappen was meant to be the future rivalry. As the race started, Max had a poor start, dropping down to 8th place, while Leclerc held strong in 1st. After fighting his way through the grid and pitting, he finally caught up to Leclerc, battling for the win for the remaining laps. On lap 69, Verstappen pulled off a move by taking a wide line inside Leclerc to take the lead. Despite being called to the stewards, Max went on to win the race as the move was deemed legal. Saudi Arabian GP DRS to the rescue. The season opener in Bahrain was a Ferrari affair, but Verstappen proved Red Bull was a championship contender by winning the Saudi Arabian GP. Unlike last year's race, the Jeddah track saw calmer racing, with no sidewall crashes requiring the use of the safety car. Leclerc and Verstappen used the DRS zone to compete for supremacy in Jeddah, increasing viewership. Verstappen defeated Leclerc by 0.5 seconds, proving that Red Bull's race-winning pace was still intact. Storming Spa. Verstappen had already gained a significant, if not impossible, lead in the drivers' standings by the time we arrived at the Belgium GP. At Spa though, he proved to be in a different league, cruising to victory from position 14. Because Spa is one of the most iconic racetracks in the world, Verstappen demonstrated that grid penalties don't matter when driving a Red Bull. Perez and Verstappen finished 1st and 2nd respectively. Unfettered excellence at Austria. After spending nearly 2 decades in the sport, someone like Kimi Räikkönen reached 21 race wins. Max, who is only 1 win shy of Kimi's record, has accomplished this in just over 5 years in F1. More notably, 4 of his 20 Grand Prix triumphs have come in Austria's Styrian Mountains, where his team Red Bull is based. That's 1/5 of his career victories. Verstappen won both rounds in Austria this year, raising the bar for what it means to excel at one's home race. Lewis Hamilton has no advantage after his 2 critical victories at Spielberg. Bouncing back at Imola after Bahrain's disappointment. Lewis Hamilton, a driver for Mercedes and a true star of the sport with 7 world championships to his credit, won the opening race of the season. But, despite starting 3rd on the grid, Verstappen was fast to drive on the outside and make a few bold lunges on Perez. His colleague was ahead of Max and, eventually, the great Lewis Hamilton, who won the race. That all happened within a few seconds of the race start was decisive. Max would then stick to the race's track position and never back down. What was the result? A fantastic victory was achieved in only the 2nd round of the 2021 Formula 1 season, dominating the rounds at the Americas, barring Brazil. Before the great Hamilton turnaround arrived at Interlagos, home of what should rightly be termed the Senna Grand Prix, Verstappen's overwhelming triumphs in the United States and Mexico City demonstrated who was indeed in charge of the grid. With bold, consecutive victories in the United States and Mexico, Max Verstappen upped the ante in his attack on Lewis Hamilton, producing a motivating moment that Hamilton appeared to have abandoned his title chances. Verstappen didn't put a foot wrong and won clinically on 2 challenging courses, demanding the tyres and demanding a lot from the race strategy department. Surprisingly, Verstappen still needs to start on the pole in Mexico. Bottas started from the pole position, but a collision involving Ricciardo damaged his race. Max saw an opportunity and pushed until he was on the top step, depriving Hamilton of another chance to win. The race would also be remembered for Räikkönen's valiant position 8, which turned out to be his final point in F1. Belgium race 2022. Verstappen was in the lead to win the championship, and in a race that looked like he might sustain damage to his lead was a race that turned out to be the race of the season. The title leader started at 14th on the grid due to his power unit, and by the end of the starting lap, Max had worked his way up to 8th. However, due to a safety car, he could only quite work his way up once the track was cleared. Once the safety car left the track, Max moved through the field and by lap 12, he was in position to challenge. After taking the lead, he only lost it again briefly when he was pitting, extending his lead in the championship by 93 points and taking his 9th win of the season. I hope you enjoyed the best moments of Max. You guys are truly amazing and I appreciate every last one of you watching. I mean that, and I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like for the video and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section. And as always, I will see you again very soon.